All right, hello, welcome back to another Top Stocks video. Before we get started, real quick, I just want to do a little bit of market analysis because I shot my market analysis video and I found out that there was a video playing in the background. All the audio was unintelligible. So just real quick, I'm going to go through SPY. I am expecting more downside in the long run. Here are my important levels here. I'm expecting probably a test of this zone. It doesn't necessarily have to happen all at once. We are at the 50. If we do not see a big gap down, we could bounce. Even if we see a gap down and go down here, we'll probably get a bounce in the next couple of days. If you look at small caps, they are at a breakout zone. They're likely to bounce soon. The transports, they're at their 200. They're at 2 pivots. There's a gap just below, likely also to bounce soon. You look at the XLF. XLF looks rather weak, but again, we're at a potential bounce zone, maybe a little bit lower in the XLF. And the SMH has broken trend, has broken the 50. This looks like it can fall, but again, bounce zone just below. We have a nice breakout area. So I am expecting a bounce probably early in the week, whether that comes in the form of a Monday gap up and bounce, or whether that comes in the form of a gap down and then go and bounce midday. That's kind of what I'm looking for. I also want to note one thing, since it is the end of the month. I find it very interesting that the DJT, one of the market leading sectors, has broken down on the monthly trend line. We've rejected this red zone and not able to close the month above. I see that as an extreme sign of weakness. We have pretty high volume on the candle, and I am not really liking the look of this. The one thing we want to keep an eye on in the DJT in the coming weeks is, can we break? This is a weekly trend line here, and then there would also be a daily trend line that would come in right here, right? So about the same place. Does it break those trend lines? This is the thing to watch. If the DJT breaks down daily and weekly, it has already broken out monthly. It's not a good sign for the market. So this is a huge sector to be watching. This could tell the tale. It is leading to the downside, and if we get all 3 time frame breaks, watch out below. Okay, so let's get into the top stocks now. I have all short stocks. I'm not looking to long anything. There's just a lot of good short setups that are coming. Trend is changing. First is going to be AMD. AMD, we have a nice trend, 3 touches. Held a support, boom, we've broken. We're below the 20 AMD. We have a area of structure right here. Here's your targets, and maybe even lower. It depends if the market gets going, gets bought up, but I'm looking for AMD to see more downside off this trend break. You can see when the moving averages get very extended, the drop tends to be pretty hard and pretty fast, and that is the first area. Potentially even lower, right? We could see the bottom of that zone. We could even see this very major structure down here, which would line up right around the 200. So AMD looking weak. We've got the trend break. That's a sell signal. On the next one, Apple. Apple has finally seen its first sell signal in a long time. Apple, here you go. It's a rather minor trend break, but you see it is important. Look at all those touches. It's got 5 or 6 days, 7 days, comes down here, barely misses, comes down, holds a support just barely on this day, and boom, we've got a decisive break on high volume. Earnings shot up and rejected. That is a failure. We're below the 20. This looks like a great short to me. We've got a more major trend line down here that lines up with these 2 targets. There's really no major area of structure until right around here. This is the best area of structure that I can see. There's some other targets here too, but I think Apple can see some solid downside in the coming week or two. Next, BKNG. This one has already seen a little bit of downside, but as you can see, we've had, boom, 2 trend breaks. So this one might need a little bit to set up. This may not be a short right away, but nevertheless, if we come back up into this 1870 to 1880 area, 1890 even, expect a rejection and expect us to come lower and test this 1750 area, potentially even worse. Okay, that one's looking really good. You can see the volume is confirming the move, and we've got the trend break, so we've got the sell signal. Next is eBay. This one looks very good. We have a nice bear flag right here, down move, bear flag, and you have the break. We have a nice gap window down here as targets, so look to short a bounce up to the bottom of this bear flag. If we get that retrace, and boom, you have 2 very nice targets down here, and potentially even lower. You know, this one looks very good below all the moving averages. It's in a rather large downtrend here, not looking so hot. So you've got, you know, trend all the way down here. So does eBay come all the way down? This could potentially be a very good long swing. If we come down to this trend, very nice head and shoulders, broken, and yeah, that looks very, very nice on eBay. Again, increase in volume, confirming the move. Next is lows. Lows, we have a nice rising wedge here, as you can see, and we've rejected the break of the all-time highs. Look at the struggle, it's very, very toppy, and boom, we've gotten a decisive break. We're below the 2 major moving averages on a decisive break. Rejected the all-time highs, we're back below those, and we've gotten a break of the wedge. You can see the break actually happened, you know, here potentially. So it's actually already broken down, but now we've gotten the confirmation. So any move back up to the top of this zone or towards the moving averages, look to short. Here's some objective targets. We've got one, which is a gap. You can see there's a few nice pivots there. And then one is this level, this gap, top of the gap window, which would come in right around the 200. Okay, lows looking very good for a short. ROST, this is one of my favorite ones because I've been watching ROST for a while. I've actually played it long up in this channel, and we've finally gotten, I mean, just look at this channel. Here's your dashed weekly trend line. You can see the week broke out here, and so again, when I draw trend lines, I wait for both time frames to confirm the break. So we've gotten the weekly break here barely, and now here's the daily. We've gotten the daily break. So any bounce up towards the bottom of the zone, trend line, even the top of this breakdown candle, look to short. You can see the massive volume confirming the break. And you've got a few targets here. Basically just picked this top one as an area of structure. You can see all the touches here. This bottom one, another kind of just area of strong structure on ROST. And then the bottom one lines up with this pivot and quite a few pivots here. There's still an open gap at that bottom level. Keep in mind the 200 can be solid support around the 200. It doesn't have to be exact, but these are some good price targets. This one looks really, really good because it's been in such an extended uptrend, right? And we've finally gotten that break. I mean, that just looks really good to me, guys. TGT, this one looks okay. The one reason I wouldn't like this quite as much is it's kind of already had quite the down move. Nevertheless, we've gotten this trend break. So does TGT potentially want to come to this gap window here? You know, that could be, if the market's not doing well, that could definitely be a possibility. So again, a few targets here. Simply gap and the top of the gap window. The 200 is right around that area, so these targets are pretty well placed. Again, any short or any bounce up to this breakdown candle, look to be shorting that. We also have an inside bar break as part of this setup. So there's the inside bar, inside, inside, inside. There's the break of the inside bar. So again, any bounce up should be shorted around that 112, around that bottom of the inside bar. And then, you know, with all these stop loss, you want to make a daily close over the breakdown, right? So in this case, it's not actually the breakdown candle, it's this gap. If there's ever a gap and then a breakdown, always make it the gap. So the close of this candle comes in at 114.67. So daily close above 114.67. And you know that it's probably not as bearish as you thought it was. It may be bouncing and going to fill these gaps. You don't want to be in that trade if it's not getting rejected around that level. Okay. Nike, I really like Nike. Nike below both of the major moving averages. We've got increase in volume. We've got a very clean trend line that's broken. You can see 1, 2, a lot of touches there, and then a touch there. Used a support there. Boom, support. Look at that, closes right on it. Right, when you draw these trend lines right, they're pretty amazing what they can do. And boom, we've got a decisive break. So again, any bounce up to the top of this breakdown candle, or even a 50% retrace, look to be shorting Nike. This one looks really good. And you've got some clear targets here, some gaps, and this, you know, very major last target where all of these pivots are, right? Gaps up, comes to retest that level, and that's also, no surprise, right around the 200. So that's the final target for Nike. GIS. This one, it's pretty interesting to me. This one had a nice symmetrical triangle, and it broke to the upside. And we've now gotten a rejection and high volume breakdown of this triangle to the downside. I really like when stocks fake out one way and then break the other way. It tends to be very high success in my experience. So we've got a nice breakdown. I just want to make sure this broke as well. Yep, so looks very good on GIS. A few nice targets here for you, and below all the moving averages. So GIS could see quite a bit of downside off of this. Longer term chart, you can see rather bearish, not able to make new highs at all. We've made an attempt now, and we are breaking down. So boom, in a weekly close below the 50. Not looking good on GIS. Looks like a great short to me. KR. This one, another very clean trend break, right? Just look at the touches. 1, 2, got close on 3, 4, 5, 6. So, and here, closes on it, holds it, boom, we broken. So KR looking rather good on the short side. And we can see again, you know, on longer term charts, this is just not able to make new highs, right? It's just really, really struggling to make new highs. Lower high at lower high. Right? We tried here, could not do it. Is this head and shoulders? Kind of, not really. But nevertheless, looks really good. Some pretty easy targets here. Breakup candle low. You've got a gap and a gap. and another gap down here. This one has very good risk to reward, right? If you're making this gap and you close above, if you're making that your stop loss, you have like a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 risk reward ratio just to the first target. So this one has huge reward potential, and if it goes even lower, then that's great. Then it's 6, 7, 8-to-1 reward risk to reward potential. Really good looking trade here on KR. MMC, get rid of that. MMC is another nice little rising channel breakdown. You can see 3, 4, boom, we held, and there's the breakdown. High volume earnings up and rejected. I like when that happens when I'm looking for shorts. If earnings send the stock higher and then it gets rejected, that's usually a sign of weakness. Usually a sign that the earnings are not being received well, even if they were good, right? Price always trumps earnings, right? That's why earnings are just simply a gamble. So a few clear targets here. These ones are a little bit closer. These ones would be more major targets down here that are right around the 200. So good profit potential if it can come to these latter targets here. DHR, another one where we had earnings and we skyrocket to new highs, right? Everyone says, oh, buy. Not so fast. Friday, you can see here, same amount of volume, comes down and breaks a very nice trend. There's two trends here that I tried to draw. I broke both of them, and I mean, you don't need to look at this for a long time to see that they're clearly very important and respected, right? And now we've gotten a decisive break on high volume. So you've got a balance area here. I marked the top and bottom of it. And these also happen to line up with these former pivots here. So this is kind of a minor first target. I would probably expect these lower targets to be hit. On most of these, honestly, the market looks ready for a pullback. Looks ready for a pullback of size. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the latter targets get hit on a lot of these. Dow. So with the coronavirus, all that going on, I decided to look at some airlines. Dow is one of the ones that I like to go short here. We've gotten a major trend break here. You can see a slight trend break, a pretty high volume recently, right? A lot of people trading this, and you've got a major area of structure down here. You can see all the pivots, and we rejected this area of structure up here. So we've gotten the trend breaks, we've got volume below all the moving averages. So this one could honestly go pretty quickly. Now that we are under the moving averages, this could even be a day or two just down and done. So that looking good. Last one here. TRV, Travelers Companies. You can see long-term chart not doing too hot at the moment, right? Under both the major moving averages. Look what happened last time that happened. Boom, big drop. So we've gotten a major trend break here. You can see that happened on Friday on pretty high volume. Earnings, massive volume. So we're seeing a volume influx on the break of the trend. That's what we want to see. And we're looking to short any move back up to this trend line. Some pretty simple targets here. You've got the pivot low here, and then you've got a gap down here, and you've got many pivot touches at this level at the bottom here. We'll see if it gets that far. The weekly 200 lines up with those first two targets. So we will see what happens. But wow, this looks bearish, right? We tried to break up. And I mean, that's a solid rejection on high volume. Looks really good to me. So yeah, that's going to be it. Hopefully you guys make some money on these picks this week. Again, I can't tell you to actually buy these, right? I'm simply an educator, and I want to share the setups that I see. Make sure you see value in them too, and make sure you make the decision for yourself if you're going to enter any of these trades. All right, so please like, subscribe, and hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.